As a quick disclaimer, I don't know how to pronounce some of these words, due mostly to not being able to speak Korean, so I'm doing my best here. Without further ado, this is what I believe to be called Nolboo Hungboo. Many years ago, there lived two brothers. Nolboo, the older, was so mean that nobody liked him. Younger brother, Hungboo, was the opposite. He was kind, polite, and generous to everybody, and was, and this means like affectionate and loving, but I can't pronounce it, and I believe it is specific to Confucianism, to his widowed father. Widowed means that the mother has died and the father is now on his own. Naturally, everybody liked him. Every parent wished to have a son like him, and nobody doubted that God would bless him. One day, father called his two sons to his bedside and took his last breath after telling them his last wish. He wanted them to always get along and help each other. Hungboo was very sad and grieved over the loss of his father, but his older brother became happy instead. In Korea, it was customary that the oldest son got all of the inheritance. Inheritance is like when your parents or someone loved passes and what they leave you behind. Being the oldest, Nolboo could do anything he wanted to do with his father's estate, meaning his money, any land he owned, any things he owned. Immediately, he told Hungboo and his family to move out, so he kicked out his little brother. Hungboo didn't have any money to rent a room and had to move out onto the street with his wife and children. He knelt down on the ground and begged his brother to allow him to stay until they could find a place of their own. His brother didn't listen. Hungboo's family packed a few belongings and his thoughts until they found a vacant, meaning empty, lot on the sunny side of the mountain and built a little hut. The whole family worked on the other people's farms, but their wages were not enough for them to live on. They often had to skip meals. The children became hungry and cried for anything to eat. Hungboo couldn't stand this family's suffering, so he went over to his brothers. "Why did you come here?" asked the older brother. "My children are so hungry and cry. I couldn't idly watch them, so I came to borrow some rice from you. Please help me." Hungboo begged his brother for food. "Who told you to have so many children? I have no intentions of giving you grain, even if mine rots in the barn." Nolboo refused to help him. Hungboo saw his brother's wife preparing the dinner table. He asked her to spare some boiled rice for his hungry children. After giving him a fiery sidelong scowl, meaning like a really dirty look, she hit him with her wooden spoon on his left cheek. The smack left rice on his cheek, and Hungboo asked, "Please hit me on the other side too." This time she wiped the wooden spoon with her apron and hit him again. Hungboo had to return home with empty hands. The long winter season was over and spring finally came. A pair of swallows, which is birds, built a nest under the eaves of Hungboo's hut. The whole family was happy to have the cheerful guests and tried everything they could to make the birds comfortable. Soon they had 5 baby swallows who grew stronger every day. One day, one of the babies dropped out of the nest to the hard ground and its leg broke. Hungboo put medicine on it and bandaged the injured leg and put the baby back in the nest. All 5 of the babies grew up to be adult swallows and flew away to the south when the winter came. Again, Hungboo's family didn't have any food or clothes to warm themselves. Eventually, this winter season, too, was finally over, and spring came back. Another pair of swallows came to occupy the old nest under the hut's eaves, which is kind of like under the roof and some beams. The whole family was again happy to have the guests. On the first day, one of the swallows dropped something in front of Hungboo. It was a gourd seed. He planted it and watered it every day with great care. By the end of the summer, the vine had had many gourds, which is like a vegetable, growing. One day, Hungboo decided to pick up some of the gourds and open them. As a game, each of his children made a wish when the gourd was open. "I wish there was gold inside. I wish there was rice." When the first gourd was cut open, it kept pouring out gold and silver coins. When they opened the second gourd, it kept pouring out rice. They opened the last gourd without a wish, and out came a group of workers with tools. "God sent us to build you a house," one of the men said. The workers didn't waste any time. A gorgeous castle was built on the sunny side of the hill. On completion of the castle, all of the workers disappeared in the blink of an eye. Hungboo and his family now had enough money and rice to live happily ever after. It didn't take much time before Hungboo's brother learned about his brother's wealth. Nolboo came over to Hungboo's house. "You must have stolen all this money," he accused his brother. No sooner had Hungboo told him how he had become rich than Nolboo hurried back home. A pair of swallows under the eaves of his big house was raising baby swallows. He picked up one of the babies from the nest and broke its legs. He then applied some medicine, bandage, and legs, and put it back in the nest. All the babies grew up and flew off to the south when winter came. As expected, one pair of swallows returned in the spring and dropped a gourd seed in front of Nolboo, the older brother. He planted and watered it with great care, hoping that he too would be as wealthy as his brother. It grew and 4 gourds ripened on the vine. Nolboo called his family together and announced that he was going to cut open the gourds. There was great excitement. Nolboo wished for gold and silver, his wife wished for rice, his children wished for a castle bigger than their uncle's. Nolboo opened the first gourd, out of which poured unbearably stinky human waste. Poop. He had to pick up the gourd and threw it outside. It was a rotten one. This one looks good. He opened the second one, out of which came countless number of poisonous snakes crawled. They opened the third gourd, hoping it would fulfill their dream. This time, goblins flooded out and started beating up on Nolboo. Still, Nolboo didn't give up on his greed. He went back and opened the last gourd. A flood of water poured out and washed away all of their belongings in their home. Nolboo and his family had nothing left. The family went over to Hungboo's house, the younger brother. My younger brother, please forgive me. From now on, I will be a good person, shedding tears from his eyes and on his knees. Nolboo begged his younger brother for a room and food for his family. Hungboo helped his brother up from the ground and welcomed him and his family. There is nothing to worry about, big brother. We have more than enough rooms and rice for both of our families. Nolboo and his family changed, and the two families lived together happily ever after.